Tracy Tomac, and just to follow up on what the judicial race is all about, this seat is actually an open seat. The Honorable James Norlander is retiring at the end of this year due to the age restriction. And sadly, we do have an age restriction. Once a judge turns 70 years old, they are no longer allowed to run for another term. So judge has aged out, which is a terrible term, but that created an open seat. I'm proud to say that Judge Norlander is endorsing me for this seat, and I'm very pleased with that endorsement. He's worked with me quite extensively this year to help me understand what this role is all about. Someone asked me this morning, are you going to tell us why you're running for judge? And I am going to tell you that, but I want to tell you a story first about a young girl that grew up here in Battle Creek. She first went to post-elementary school, 1st through 4th grade, and then her parents moved her out to Harper Creek, where she eventually graduated. Smart girl that never opened a book, didn't study, still graduated with honors. This girl went on to Michigan State for the purpose of having fun, and she had a lot of fun. And her dad used to say, well, you got your education there, but you didn't quite get your degree. This girl started to work 3 different jobs to pay for the schooling bills that she had and to keep herself busy while she sort of found out what she wanted to do with her life. This girl went on to Spring Arbor University, finished her degree with a 4.0, and began working as a business analyst. She ended up at State Farm in Marshall and was quickly promoted to a supervisor. She moved down to the Bloomington, Illinois headquarters and was literally climbing the corporate ranks very quickly. She was placed on several corporate-wide committees. People from all over the country worked directly with the CEO of State Farm, helping to establish diversity teams, helping to establish the volunteer committee. She received several awards and was doing fantastic. In the fall of 2003, after months of not quite feeling right and doctors telling her she might be a hypochondriac, she asked if she could have her tonsils taken out. She still had her tonsils. When the test came back from that tonsil removal, she was told, your throat is full of cancer. And life changed in that very moment. Everything that you think is important, when you hear the C word, all goes away and you focus on one thing, and that's getting through this. So she moved back to Battle Creek to have her treatments here, underwent grueling treatments for months, missed almost a year of work, and during that time had an absolutely life-changing revelation. I do not want to die in a cubicle in a building of 20,000 employees. So she shocked everybody she knew. She sold her house, she quit her job, and she went to law school. And to everyone's shock, she hammered it at law school. Law school was her thing. She was an award-winning student, received several scholarships and honors, and decided when she was done to come back to Battle Creek. For her internship, she met with Dan Busher, who ironically is my opponent today. He was my first contact here in Battle Creek, and yes, that girl is me. Dan Busher brought me into the prosecutor's office, and I had my internship there, and I loved it so much. Being a prosecuting attorney is the most exciting thing. It is law and order in real life. There are people around you that are so thrilled to do the right thing, and I loved it. I wasn't hired on to the prosecutor's office, so my next choice was to order some business cards. I ordered some business cards. I was living with my mom at the time. She gave me a desk in her basement, and Tomac Law Office was begun. Within weeks, literally, it was so busy I had to get some professional space. About 2 months after that, that lawyer who was giving me space said, we cannot keep up with the number of clients you have. You need to move along. So I found another attorney who had a whole upper floor for me, and I moved in with this attorney. And I built this law firm all by myself. I didn't have people helping me. There was no one there other than the occasional questions. I knew who to go to for help, but I built this law firm. I built it on the philosophy of I want to help people. Obviously, I need a living, but I'm not an attorney to make money. If any of you have ever needed an attorney, you know when you go in that office, you're not happy, you're not there for a fun, kind reason, you're in trouble, or you are facing a death, Maybe someone's died and you don't know what to do with their estate. Maybe someone that you love is in trouble. It's a very vulnerable time. And I have seen attorneys who light up at that vulnerable person who looks like they might have money. It has been the backbone of our firm to never, ever take advantage of someone. And the more we do that, the more successful we are. And we're very proud of that fact. I was fortunate enough to meet another new attorney. Her name is Kelly Podolsky. And at first I brought her in and I started teaching her as if I was the most seasoned attorney in town and could teach people, but I did. I taught her what I knew, and we shared the same philosophy. It's kind of like finding a spouse when you find somebody that you want to partner with. So we established Tomac and Podolsky. Yes, she's my work spouse. This here is my actual spouse, John.
Not this John, this John.
Yeah. Tomac and Podolsky has grown, and we have just continued with the philosophy, let's help people. If we have to do a case pro bono, we'll do it pro bono. If we have to charge them $50 an hour and they pay us $20 a month for the next 10 years, we've done that. We have worked with people to ensure that they have legal help when they need it. We've brought on other attorneys. Right now it's a 3-attorney office with 2 paralegals. We always promised each other we're never running for judge. Never running for judge. Pinky swear. We never want to do that, never want to do that. Because we really felt we were doing the greatest good with our firm and our philosophy. Well, then last fall rolls around and we have a judicial opening. And several attorneys came to me and said, we really need you to run. No, 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 no. And then I couldn't sleep at night. For about 3 nights I just laid there awake and thought, oh no, I think I have to do this. So I first told my husband, who almost fell over, and then I went to my mom and sister, who looked at me and said, it's about time, which shocked me because they'd never said that. And then I told my partner, which was like telling her I need a divorce. And she jumped up and hugged me and said, I'm gonna miss you, but yes, you are the judge that we need. And that's when I knew, okay, I'm gonna take this journey. And I've looked at it as a journey. I don't have the goal of I must win. I had the goal of I need to soak up this journey and I need to meet everybody I can in our community. I need to get involved in everything I can because this is my community. I grew up here. I brought my practice back here. These are my people. So, qualifications for a judge. Why would I be qualified? I've only been practicing for 11 years. Well, I'd like to name for you the judges we've had that have practiced 11 years or less when they took the bench. Judge Kingsley, may he rest in peace, had practiced about 8 years. Judge Miller had practiced roughly 6 to 8 years. Judge Garbrecht had practiced about a year. That was before they changed the rule that you have to be practicing for 5 years. That is our minimum. Judge Durham took the bench at 11 years, same as my experience. Judge Line took the bench at about 11 years. Judge Yost Johnson had only practiced law for about 3 years before she became a referee and then a judge. But practicing law on the private sector is like being a counselor, being a parent, being a friend, and leading someone through what they don't want to go through. We sit face to face every day with people crying, with their parents yelling at us, you better get them out of this, you better do this, you better do that, and it's not only listening, but now it's educating. I understand you want this to go away. It's not going away. Now let's realistically look at what our alternatives may be. Then it's negotiating with the prosecutor's office. Nope, we got them, we charged them, this is what's happening. One of my favorite and sad examples is a lot of nursing students will get a drunk driving or maybe a possession of marijuana, and if those charges stick on their record, their entire career is gone. They will not be able to be a nurse. So these discussions are, you've messed up your life pretty good, what can we do for you? And that may be finding another profession, but it may not be. And that's where you've got to look at this individual's entire background. What else do they have to offer this community? What creative sentencing could we ask for that would give them the punishment that they deserve, that would help society know that they're not going to be back and back and back to court, but not ruin their life. It takes a lot of creativity, a lot of negotiation, and a lot of good faith resolution with both the prosecutor's office and the judges. One of my clients, it was Judge Halsey, who actually came up with the most creative resolution, and he literally saved a man's entire livelihood. He was the one that came up with, I think you two attorneys need to look at ABC. And we looked at each other, we can do that? It wasn't his decision, it was his suggestion, and it truly changed this man's life. I'm in touch with him today. He'd been a drinker. He is now one of the leaders in AA, and he gets to continue trucking milk rather than losing his ability to do that. So the legal system, what I want you to know, is a lot of different playing parts. The district court does the misdemeanor crimes. All of the misdemeanor crimes happen right there. The felony crimes all must go through the district court to determine if there's enough evidence to send it to the circuit court so that they can resolve it at the, we call it the 4th floor level. Those are the big crimes. The circuit court also does family law, which I have done hundreds of trials in the family law. That's a very difficult type of law because now we're talking about proving love and affection and nurturing and guidance. And let me tell you what, most attorneys would say, no thank you. I'd rather deal with, was he shot? Did you have a gun? Was it marijuana? It's much more, not in every case, but much more clear cut and easily factually proven on a crime. A family law case is 2 parents with kids who are fighting, oh no, I love them more, no, I bathed them more. It's very difficult emotionally and for the court to determine. That is an interesting courtroom because in one case, I may be sitting with a mother and arguing an identical set of facts for her, that then I change tables and now I'm arguing for the dad. Same thing, flipped position. Then I have to flip back and people say, how can you do that? Because that's my job, to represent whoever I have as a client to the best of my ability. I have been able to represent victims of domestic violence in their divorce proceedings, women, men who come to me, so I've been involved in every aspect of the court system. I've been an attorney in the probate court, where we did, I don't do this anymore, but when a person is hospitalized due to a mental illness, so they may be placed into Fieldstone, for example, against their will, well, they need a hearing within 7 days. They get an attorney, and the attorney goes and represents them. And the argument there is, should this person be released back into society? Are they a danger to themselves or others? This court happens every single week, and I've fought for people in that court, many out at the VA, which is very troubling to see our vets come home. The vets out at the VA when I started were all 60s and 70s. Now we see the young men who cannot function in society, who don't have a home, they don't have a job, they can't keep a job. There's a lot of help and a lot of need out at the VA, and it's just getting more with the young men that are coming back. So the probate court is a big part of what our criminal system does. The other thing that I love about our court system are the specialty courts. I was able to volunteer on the creation of the sobriety court under the leadership of Judge Halsey. A team was put together of the judge, prosecutor, community partners that were involved in mental health, and they needed a volunteer from the defense ranks. And I think they were having trouble finding a defense attorney to say, I'll do it for free. But that was me, I'll do it for free. This is when I was a single practitioner, so every moment that I spent not billing was not only I wasn't earning money, but I was really losing money. And I volunteered over 300 hours because I believed in the cause. Then sitting there in the sobriety court and watching participants graduate through that have actually become sober, that we have given the skills to maintain a sober lifestyle, that is life-changing. I would sit in each session trying not to cry at what we have created for these people. We need more of these specialty courts. I've been very clear in my campaign, my number one goal as a judge will be to establish a misdemeanor drug court. We have a successful drug court at the felony level, but at the felony level, these folks are deep in. They are multiple drug convictions, or their crime is so high, such an egregious crime that they're already at the felony level. I want to help the person who's caught with marijuana. I want to help the person who for the first time tried a little meth. I want to make sure that we are getting these people at the beginning of their drug problem. Because we all know even one hit of meth can ruin your life. We cannot wait until they reach the felony level. We have other courts throughout the state that are doing this, and people will say, that's gonna take a lot of work. That's gonna take a lot of funding. That's gonna take ABC. You bet it is, and I'm the one that wants to do that work. I will dedicate myself to nights, weekends, working with the other communities, because we have got to get ahead of our drug problem. Our drug problem is the cause of what is happening to our community. These people can't get jobs, their children are affected, their other loved ones are affected, they lose their home, they're in the landlord-tenant dispute court. It's just a myriad or ripple effect that starts from, you can't mess with drugs, you just can't. We have critically got to get ahead of this. If medical or if recreational marijuana is passed, I don't care if it's passed or if it isn't passed, but the court system is not prepared for people who are smoking marijuana or ingesting marijuana and driving. We are not prepared. There is work going on to catch up, but to have that ahead of us and what we can do as a court system is terrifying. That means people will be hurt, on the roads especially. We don't have a way right now to test for, were you too high or not too high? The law right now says if you have any trace of it in your system, you've broken the law. And maybe that's what the law should be, but people aren't educated about it. We don't know the effects of the amounts of marijuana to let you drive and have you not be impaired. We are in catch-up mode, and we're going to need creative thinking and people ready to do the work. My history as a business analyst is where my creative thinking comes in. I don't look at something and go, well, yeah, that's how we've always done it. My training is, well, that's how we do it now, but let's look at it this way. I am not afraid of change because I've been trained to find change. One of the speeches I gave on this campaign trail was regarding domestic violence. And Judge Norlander oversees the domestic violence docket right now, so that very well could be my docket. And what I said there was I absolutely support every program that we have for victims of domestic violence. We need to do more. But what about the people that are doing the offending? And people looked at me and I heard someone say, she's for the offenders. No, I'm not for the offenders. What I'm asking is what are we doing to break this cycle? Because 90-some% of abusers were abused as children. This is what they know. This is what they do. If you're angry, you punch. That's how I was raised. That's how my dad was raised. That's how my grandpa was raised. This is what we hear. So getting a woman out of this situation does not stop the fact that now this man goes on to the next girl, the next family. We have got to get creative with the punishment for domestic abusers, which really is treatment. We don't have that right now. We are continuing the cycle. So now they've abused this family. He'll move on to another family, each household full of children who know that when you're mad, you punch. This is why our problems are not getting smaller, they're getting bigger. We're not looking at things from the right angle. And that's, again, my creative thinking. I want to do everything we can for victims, and I want to do everything we can for people who are committing the crimes to stop them. I've always said the only thing I ask of my community is be productive. For you and for you and for you, that's going to mean something different. But be a productive member of our society. If you truly have nothing that you can offer due to disability or age, there is a portion of our population that we need to assist. But does it have to be half or more of our population? I don't think so. If you can't work, could you at least greet down at the Salvation Army? Could you spend 2 hours greeting folks? That's a way to contribute. And that's my passion, is to make contributing citizens who will then make contributing children who hopefully will come back to this town and live here because they know, wow, in Battle Creek, in Calhoun County, they really try to help us. The other focus and passion for me are youth crimes. Once the youth are 14, 15, 16, we've pretty much lost them. If they aren't raised by a family who shares our values, they're gone. Their values are guns. The shooting the other night here in town, that was my client. And he's a nice young man who had himself in some trouble, and maybe even more trouble than I knew about. But that's another death. He's not the first client that I've lost. I lost a client a few summers ago to a murder-suicide while we were doing the divorce. We have got to show people there are better ways. And that includes beefing up our community of counselors, of therapists. Judge Hallisey knows when we need a therapist in town, there's just 2 or 3 that we all want them to go to. Well, they can't keep up with that workload. We've got to work with each aspect of our community. That's what I'm dedicated to doing. In our court system, we also have the ability for any judge to fill in a different courtroom. My opponent had some private practice experience years ago. For 24 years, he's been a prosecuting attorney. He's very proud of that, and he should be. He is an excellent prosecutor. In my mind, what a prosecution does is keeps your, this is the focus. It's very limited. You prosecute, prosecute, prosecute. When you're in private practice, your span is this wide. I might be in the probate court helping a family. I might be in the probate court helping a mentally ill person. I might be in family court doing an adoption, doing a custody fight, doing a divorce. I might be in the abuse neglect court. My firm has a contract to do that work, where we represent parents, children, moms, dads, I want to say it 3 times, moms, dads, and children in an abuse neglect situation. Then we have to get the foster parents involved. There will sometimes be a room full of 9 attorneys, a mom, multiple fathers, multiple agencies. We've got to do something on that. I have experience with that. I have experience in criminal defense. I've done it for 11 years. I wish I'd done it for 40. It is, to me, the best type of law. And I also have experience with landlord-tenant, which is in the district court. And I have experience with civil cases that are in the district court. My last thing I want to touch on is the landlord-tenant problem. I have represented both landlords and tenants, and I believe very firmly in the property rights of a landlord. They buy a home, they fix it up, they want to provide this housing for the community. That is a business for this landlord. We need affordable housing. What we have in this community is a merry-go-round of the same people who can't afford it, who might be able to get in for a month or 2, and now everybody's back in court. And the landlord is losing money, and the house might get trashed because the tenant is angry or they're desperate. There's nothing that can be done. It's a long process to get that final eviction. What are we doing? Well, let me tell you what Kalamazoo is doing. I don't think it's perfect, but they're doing something. It's called an eviction diversion program, where they have partnered with the state, the Department of Health and Human Services, who have an office right there in the district court, where they come out and say, look, you've lost your income, you've lost your ability to pay. Did you know that we have programs that could catch up your rent, pay it for 3 months, we can provide you job training or help you find a job, get your utilities caught up, and make sure that you can stay in this apartment. The landlord, well, why would I give them that chance? They still get their order for the eviction that they can use at any time. But they're saying, you know what, I do think you could do this. I do think you could turn it around. I'll allow this. It's voluntary. The people are able to take advantage of the services. And the hope is that now they become a tenant. that can pay on time, that can be a good match, because it's a business relationship with the landlord. It's an opportunity. And that would be a lot of work, and that would take a lot of bringing people together and working with the state. It sure will. And other communities have done it, and there is no reason that we shouldn't do it. I have been working with our legal aid services. They're trying to do it without support from our current judges. These judges, or some judge, has got to spearhead and lead a program, just like Judge Hallisey did with the sobriety court. He said, I'll take the work, I'll do the extra work, I'll make this happen. And it was unbelievable. We had an incredible journey. I will do the work in these programs. I'm not asking someone else to do it. If I have an idea, I'm the one that will do this work. So I'd like to bring together the community partners and make it a program that works for Battle Creek, for Calhoun County, something that we want to see. So I'm asking your support for a couple of reasons. One, I grew up here. My roots in this community go back 3 generations on both sides of my family. Number 2, I have the experience to do this. Experience is the big magic word in this campaign. Experience matters. It absolutely does. And I think my variety of background is the right experience. I am not ingrained in one type of prosecution thinking. I love prosecution. I do it in a second. But I believe our judges need a broader range of current experience, and I've got that. I've run my firm, I've met my payroll, we've never missed payroll, we've never missed a bill. We treat our employees as if they are in charge, and I'm very proud of that. They know that. They're in charge, and if they're happy, then the whole firm is happy. It is the most drama-free place to work that I've ever been, and it's all women. So that says a lot, because we treat the employees as what they are in that place. They tell me where to go and what to do, but we all have the philosophy. Who are we helping today? We get gifts from clients on almost a weekly basis, and our paralegals have been in the legal system about 30 years, and they crack up every time. We've never seen people we get flowers from the other side. From the people that we were against, who said you were so kind and so respectful, I had to thank you. So what we do right, and I will take that same philosophy into the court system. I can fill in at the circuit court level, I could fill in at the probate level, and I'm certainly ready to handle the district court level. It's different having a woman from private practice run for judge. It's taken a little bit of, I never thought of it that way. But I will tell you, I am dedicated to serving. I never wanted to be a judge. I'm not impressed with the robe and what comes with it. That is the court position. Tracy, as a person, just wants to roll up her sleeves and work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On the housing market, I'm in the insurance industry, and I have a lot of landlords, and a lot of habitational that I work with. But I feel, in my opinion, where the problem has actually came from is on a state level, where these Section 8 clients are no longer getting the visits from the state. This, I don't know, was quite a while ago, I think it was. And I think those visits from the state have actually made the problem worse, because now a lot of these people are partying like every day is Friday night. I think maybe if we could work on the getting back on the program that Kalamazoo has, but maybe getting the state employees to do regular checkups again, I think that would be a big benefit as well too.
That is a great point, and that's why I will always include community partners, because if there's a department of our state that's not doing what we need them to do, they need a little pressure from the people here, and I'm happy to provide that pressure to get the BCAR, the Battle Creek Area Association of Realtors. They've endorsed me because they know that this is one of my priorities. We need to get the right people together and start putting the pressure where the pressure needs to be put. That's where you get results, and I'm a very firm believer in tell me your complaint, but I'm gonna do something about it. I'm not just going to let it wash by. So that's a great idea. I'd like to talk to you more about that.
Who's in charge of security in the courts?
That is the sheriff's department, Matt Saxton.
All right, so if a person is a victim and the perpetrator's family confronts them in court, the judge isn't there, they're all sitting waiting for the judge or the attorneys or whatever. And there is no bailiff or no security. He or she's out in the hallway monitoring the hall. And I've recently had a situation with that, and when I called Dan, he said each courtroom, the judge is in charge of the security in there. And later I find out there is some grant to provide protection when you're in the court, or to assist victims while they're in there.
That is
So
correct.
who's in charge?
It is the sheriff's department, and there are phones in each of the hallways where you can place a phone call if you cannot find a deputy or a court staff member. They will get a deputy down there immediately. I've had to do it several times. I have been threatened to be killed in the courtroom, and get a deputy up here. They will sit with you. They will ensure that everybody is behaving, and if they aren't, they take them to jail. That we don't have extra deputies that are there all of the time, so you need to make them aware. A perfect thing to do is, as you enter the building, let them know we may have a situation in Judge Hallisey's courtroom today. Could you please send a deputy? They will send a deputy. That is their priority. So it's just a matter of finding someone. If you can't find someone, pick up a phone. They are in each hallway. Do you have anything to add to that, Judge?
Well, I am not in charge of security in my courtroom. I can ask the sheriff, I could order the sheriff to have somebody there. Ultimately, I think what you're talking about as a victim of crime, there's the Crime Victims' Rights Act, and there's a crime victim unit within the prosecutor's office. Yeah. And oftentimes, well, they have a number of staff, I think 3 or 4, that will accompany victims and sit with victims in the courtroom. Oh. And actually, if there's a violent crime, we're required to have a special room where they can sit to be separated from, not in the courtroom, but outside the courtroom where they can sit, and it's kind of separated and secured. Usually the staff, we have a security system which actually has a black dot on it. We'll get notifications if there is an issue, and there'll be a specific dot on a case that says this is a security issue. And so we'll make sure the sheriff, and sometimes the prosecutor, the sheriff, or the defense attorney will notify my staff, and we'll call down to make sure we have more staff or sheriff staff in the courtroom. So we try to be very aware of it. There are times where we'll have, I'll have 15 cases in the morning, and usually then it's, the prosecutor's office is the one you ought to talk to first, because if your case is through them, which it sounds like it is, then they should have staff with them.
Yeah, it seemed to me you shouldn't have the perpetrator and the victim sitting in the courtroom and nobody there. That seemed a common sense thing, but right. Maybe administratively it's... Usually
the perpetrator and their family will be in the courtroom, because they have to be, because they're going to be meeting with their attorney. And usually the victims will either be downstairs in the prosecutor's office or upstairs in one of the conference rooms, separated with the crime victim staff. Usually what happens.
We also have many instances where it spills out into the parking lot. So as you leave the building, you can pause at the check-in and ask for a deputy to escort you to your car. And I have to use that very regularly for my clients, mostly on the divorce side. Yes.
All right, thanks.
Question for you. I'm sure you're familiar with the Uber driver.
Yes.
Okay, well that case is coming up in January. I know of the family that lost the husband and son. They've received letters, a family, that they can only have 6 people in the courtroom because they need chairs for people in the community to sit there. This family is very upset. They can only have 6. I recommended, since you lost 2, you should get 12. But is there a limit in Calhoun County of how many family members can sit in a courtroom? for a crime?
I'm not aware of one, are you, Judge?
No, the only limit that's set is by the fire marshal. There's a sign on every courtroom that says, here's the limit. Usually usually it's first come, first serve who sit there, but oftentimes we'll set aside a certain area for everybody to sit. The way our courthouse was designed is poor as far as high profile cases where dozens of people would like to come. So what we do is generally set aside some seats. I've never sent out or heard of a letter that limited the number of people that could come. Obviously, there's an issue because you want to allow seating for, it's an open courtroom, so whoever wants to come can come, but we try to set aside seats for both the victim's family and for the perpetrator's family, because they're both should be able to be there to be there for whoever they're with. But ultimately, there's a limit to the number of seating. One of the issues we've talked about is having an open courtroom. It's become an issue on the appellate level, is when you do jury selection, we'll actually have standing room only, so then nobody can be in there. There just isn't enough room. And that's been, cases have been reversed because of that. So there is the technology now to open a video area in the jury assembly room where a number of people, dozens of people could sit, so they could actually watch the proceedings. It's not perfect, but at least it allows people to watch what's going on. So that's a possibility as well. But it probably has more to do just with the limit, and then security. Security in cases has become a huge, huge issue, because in district court, we had fights break out in the courtroom, in the hallway, as Tracy said. We don't allow cell phones in our building for that very reason, because it's a pain for people when they walk into the courthouse. But if you brought in a cell phone, if everybody had a cell phone, it allows for much more coordination and quick coordination between people. And that's just simply, we'll never change that rule as far as I'm concerned. But I don't know why they would send a letter out like that. I would ask and say, okay, is there then some other place where we could sit so at least we could observe? We should try to accommodate that. I don't know if they have that in Kalamazoo, but they should try.
And I should quickly thank my husband, John Galbraith. He is a member of the Monday afternoon Rotary. We had to make up a meeting, so he came with me. And we have a 7-year-old son, Nicholas, who attends St. Joseph Elementary. He's in 2nd grade.
So when David gets too old to sell popcorn, maybe he can come sell popcorn.
He's a Cub Scout, yes. And I also want to thank my opponent, too. We had our Bar Association debate last week, and while we had the dinner and waited to speak, I was able to sit right next to him, and he just kept saying, I just want to run to another room and just you and I talk. It's been a very difficult process, as you know, politics are, but Mr. Busher has treated me very well this entire time. In fact, in many of the summer festivals, he took Nicholas for ice cream, so they became buddies. That's my son. And for many months, my son said, Mom, I'm just going to have to vote for Mr. Busher. I finally won him over.
I'll have to remember that one.
So he's on my team now. But it's been very nice to see him look up to this and make the whole process a learning environment. Politics is hard. Being a judicial candidate, we're non-political, meaning we're non-partisan, and that's hard for people too. I want to know, which party are you a member of? There's much debate about that. I've never been a member of either party. I've been active with both parties throughout this process, and that is the most fair thing. If you are a very deep-seated person in one party or another, and you appear before a judge that you know is active in the other party, that right away makes your entire time in court feel like, this isn't right, I know they're against me. And that's the whole basis of the judicial branch, to be fair, to be impartial. You might not like what the judge says, but you should at least walk out of there feeling, well, that was probably fair. You shouldn't feel that you were singled out for any particular reason. And I'm very proud that I've been able to run a campaign that has been truly nonpartisan.
With that, I'll just remind everybody, I've been in Tracy's shoes several times throughout the last 18 years. But as a judge, one thing that happens is if you actually look at statistics, when you see the ballot, it's partisan at the top, and the number of votes drop down substantially between there and the nonpartisan part of the ballot, which is just below that, because people just don't go there, or they vote straight ticket and then don't vote. Which is a shame, as I started out introducing Tracy, this is the third branch of government that governs people's lives. And so many people don't know who's running, and so many more people who do vote, don't vote for their judicial candidates. So make sure you flip over the ballot or
That's
look
what
down at the
you
bottom.
gotta flip it over. I'm on the backside all the time.
Yeah, well, some people deserve to be there, Mike. Just kidding.
So that's why you're on the backside?
That's right, I'm on the backside too. I'm glad to join you there, so. But make sure you go down to the bottom of the ballot, and you can't just vote straight ticket and vote for a judicial candidate. You have to go down to the bottom, or as Mike said, flip it over. Make sure you
Right.
vote for the
Allow yourself
nonpartisan.
extra time this year because you can't just do straight ticket. You can vote in each box, but it will take longer to complete your ballot.
Right. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you so much.